look at the little screen. Everybody got something?
Yes.
Are we moving? Okay.
Whoa. And then I'll just wait it.
All right. I'm going to go with the mask for a little while here. It needs cleaning. The visor needs a little bit of cleaning, so I'll go with the mask. We'll see how it works today, and I can change back and forth easy enough. So. This is where we left off yesterday. I don't know if I talked my way through the slide or not, so just in case I didn't, we will run through these very quickly. We got up right up to the Federal Reserve yesterday, and that purpose of the Federal Reserve is to handle financial crises and get the country out of them and fix the problems. And there's some things they can do here. They can increase the money supply. Where did that, anybody remember that $3 trillion that the president spent a couple of months back to give us all a stimulus check? Where'd that come from? We looked at the national debt, right? Do we have $3 trillion in the bank?
Yeah.
The nice thing about governments is they can make their own money. So they just printed $3 trillion of them. Everybody's good. And that'll go on the debt. Right? There's the tools coming up. The Fed controls all of our banks in the country, and they can tell all the banks what to do. Some banks refuse to do it, but that's a different problem. And one of the things they do is they set the interest rate. The Fed actually loans money to banks, and that helps the bank figure out, that they tell them what the interest rate is going to be, but that helps them figure out what they charge us. Well, the Fed says, we have to pay the Fed 3%. So if you want to borrow money from me, the bank, it's going to be 4%. If the Fed lowers the rate and pays and sends it to me for 2%, then I can lower the rates on the loan and pay 3%. So they can control those banks. They can make them do whatever they want them to do. Time to go over this. Talking too much. All righty. Yep. Oh, I missed the last one. The Federal Reserve requires all banks to keep a certain amount of money on hand. So when people come in and want their money, they can get it. The stories are rampant. They're quite a bit old now for everybody, but in the Great Depression of the 30s, people were losing their jobs. They went down to the bank to get their money. The bank had all their money loaned out. So it said, I'm sorry, we don't have any money right now. You can come back tomorrow. We should have some. Well, that didn't work because nobody paid their mortgages, nobody paid their bills, nobody paid anything. The bank still didn't have any money. They got a few dollars, but as soon as somebody got in there, it was gone. Now, you lost your job, you got no money, and the bank has lost your money. If you're buying a house or renting an apartment, now you're living on the street. And it went really bad fast from the beginning. There's a really great old movie made I think it was made in the 40s maybe, but really great movie about people surviving that time period. So they have a reserve. If things get bad, hopefully they have enough reserve to make it through a day or two so they get more money from the Fed. And that's all they do is call up and say, hey, our reserve's gone. We need help down there. It's a good system. Now here's one I didn't know until I started teaching this class. Rights of capitalism. We're a capitalistic society here. What capitalism means is business. I can start a business, I can sell you stuff, you can buy my stuff, and I make a profit, and everybody's happy. You get stuff you want, I make profit. But I had not seen these fundamental rights, and I want to talk about a couple of them in some detail. You have a right to own a business and keep after-tax profits. Did you see how they snuck that in there? You get to keep the after-tax profits. So first thing you got to do is pay taxes. The right to private property. Private property is an issue with me, especially in Texas. One of the things we've always bragged about in the United States is that you can own property. And unfortunately, I discovered some years back that that wasn't true. As an example, not related to Texas, in Hawaii, you can only own the property if you're a Hawaiian. And I don't mean you moved in and joined the club. I mean, you can trace your family tree back to the original descendants, original occupants of Hawaii. Everybody else leases it. So I bought a house in Hawaii when I was stationed there in the Army, and my house was on leased property. Now, leases are not like loans. Leases expire, you don't pay them off. When the property was first sold, it had a 99-year lease. When I got it, it had, I think, 89 years left on it. So I was pretty confident that I'd be okay. But what happens when that lease gets down to zero? You gotta move your house. The owner of the land can make you move your house because it's on his property. And you negotiate, hey, how about another lease? And the price goes up. So it's pretty awful. It doesn't happen very often, but it has the potential. So what do we got here in Texas? We have a thing called property tax. And if you don't pay your property tax, what happens? You're gonna go, the state, you move out, the state takes your property. You can take your furniture, but if your house is on that property, they got your house and your property both. They got a new law, well, relatively new law for me, but they got another law now that says you can stay there till you die if you have it homesteaded. And if you don't know, if you're going to buy a house, you need to know, first thing you need to know about is a homestead exemption. Claim your homestead exemption on your house. That reduces your property taxes a little bit, and that guarantees that you live there till you die. Now, when you die, the state owns it. Doesn't matter if you have a will, the state owns it. And they will sell it on the courthouse steps at some point because the state doesn't want a bunch of houses. One of the things that I'm kind of a fanatic on right now, because I didn't know it when I was growing up either. And when somebody explained it to me one day, I thought, oh man, so you can't own property in Texas. Other states don't have property taxes, so if you want to be sure you got your own property, go live someplace else. I grew up in Illinois, and Illinois has property tax and income tax, both of them. So they got a double hammer on you. It's a tough place to live. I moved to Texas as soon as I heard that they didn't have income tax. And I was living here without owning any property, so I didn't care about the rest of it. As soon as I retired and didn't have any income, I had property, and now I had to pay property tax. Didn't have any income. So I admitted I'll vote for an income tax. I get out from under that land property tax, I'd be happy. Right to free choice, I think we're demonstrating the First Amendment rights every day in this country today, all year long, maybe some last year. It's a problem for me. If everybody can do whatever they want, there has to be a conflict at some point. And I'll tell you, my dad told me when I was a teenager, he said, the right of your fist ends where my jaw starts. You know, I've kept that, shared that with all my friends over the years. That makes sense to me. You know, you have the right to play your music as loud as you want to. Unless I can hear it, then I have the right to complain about it. So it's a two-edged sword. You can't just do whatever you want because it interferes with somebody else and they have rights to. That's one of the problems. One of the most important things that we've forgotten in this country here recently is that, hey, yes, you have the right to this. You do have the right to protest, and we love protesters. They're great. You do not have the right to burn down somebody's building or throw a gas grenade into their car or hit it with a brick or anything like that. That's not one of your rights. Right to fair competition is very interesting because the government tries to has some laws and they try to keep track of fair competition, but fair is kind of like truth and justice. The truth changes from time to time, and the truth is different for everybody, and so is fair. Some people think fair is different than I do, and it gets to be a problem. all goes back to culture, in my mind, because we're all different. We have different cultures. I don't think like you do. You don't think like I do. Put them all up there. Different kinds of competition, and it gets at what I was trying to tell you is everything's kind of a little bit different, but there's a pure competition. Monopolistic is where I sell it all, nobody can sell any. I control that market. The closest thing we have to this, I can't name one in the United States because it's illegal, but the diamond trade, the diamond mining owners control the price of diamonds. They got a little club, and they all get together and say, we're selling diamonds for this much, and we'll sell this many this year. And of course, if you're only going to sell this many and more people want it than that, the price is going to go up, isn't it? Everybody wants it, and there's a limited supply. This is just about everybody up here, and that's the monopolistic and monopoly. I'm not going to try to sort this out. Which gets us back to the most important part of the chapter, and that's the supply-demand curves, and I think you got a homework assignment on those as well. And I'll do my best. This is what I learned in my graduate course, and the thing that I treasured my entire career was an understanding of what's going on here. It's opposite to what your essay questions ask, but if everybody wants it, the price goes up. If nobody wants it, the price goes down. And in here, we're talking about two different curves, really. This is the supply, and that's the demand over there. And they move in opposite directions. The supply curve, it starts off low, and you see, it's backwards for me, by the way, but you see the price going up here, and it looks like whenever the supply increases, the price goes up, but that's not it. When the price goes up, the supply increases because the businesses now can sell more. You're selling that thing for $10 that we said we could buy for $5 and sell for $10. You're selling it for $10, and people want to pay $20. Or people are willing, I better say it different. People are willing to pay you $20. You want to raise your price? Would you be willing to raise your price from 10 to 20? Yeah. So would you want to sell more? If you were manufacturing those, would you make more? And that's what's going on. When the price goes up like this, the suppliers start supplying more and more and more products because they can make a bigger profit. It makes perfect sense. Not confusing at all. And then when we get over to the demand curve, that's where the opposite comes in. You see that the price is high, and the line goes down because people don't want to pay that much for pizza. At this price, nobody's selling pizza. Well, nobody's selling pizza. What's going to happen to the price automatically? Price going to go down. Nobody will buy it. Try selling for less. Start selling it for less. How many people want pizza now? Now you need a lot more pizzas to keep up with the demand. Now that's another one of those, I love pictures, so there's a picture of how the system works. And it pretty much, those two pictures pretty much explain the whole process. You just have to learn to read them. And you're done. Carry the pictures around with you going home. Now, in a capitalistic society, what is supposed to happen, and probably does for the most part, you can always find exceptions. I'm a bad person. I say always and never too much. There is no such thing as always or never. So I could make one up. Let's see if I make one. It's never been 50 below zero in Dallas. Air temperature. Now, what about when the new ice age comes through? Maybe it will be lower, but so far we haven't had any lowers since we would keep track of it. This is what's supposed to happen. So the demand, we don't want to pay this much. We want to pay less. When the price is down here, nobody wants to sell it. You got to make something or buy it from somebody else. You got to sell it for a profit. So you don't want to be in the business here. As this demand decreases, it bumps into this curve right there, And if everybody would cooperate, everybody will buy them there and everybody will sell them there. And it's kind of, that's where you get into the free market kind of a thing where it just works. And it moves around that a little bit. It depends on the product to a great deal, but generally speaking, they all work like that. Okay, that gets us into our economies in the world. Somebody asked me the other day why we fought the war in Vietnam, and the government's explanation is that we thought if North Vietnam took over South Vietnam, it would become a communist country. There was a thing called the domino theory that the governments believed in, so that if you have, everybody know dominoes? You ever lined them up and pushed one down, next one follows? So the theory was that Vietnam goes communist. North Vietnam was supposedly communist. If they took South Vietnam, they would be communist, and then Laos would be communist, and then Cambodia would be communist, and Thailand would be, and you just work it across. That's what they were all afraid of. That was their idea. I make a big deal about communism. According to your book, how's that communist thing working? You haven't read that part of the chapter? According to your book, there are exactly 2 communist countries in the world. North Korea and Cuba. And how are they doing?
Terrible.
You want to live in either one? Cuba's not too bad of a place, but certainly North Korea is not the kind of place you want to live any place. And they can be communist all they want, I don't care. And a lot of the people, well, the people that have been there for all of their lives probably have grown accustomed to it because it's what they've always known. They're probably okay. The people that know better don't want to get, they want to get out of there as fast as they can. But for the most part, the people have been there a long time. Now, I didn't realize that, and that's your book's reference, not me. They have to argue with the book. There's very little things that are pure, so you pick up a piece from here and a piece from here and a piece from here to come up with your own system. Trying to remember the terms. One of my friends was telling me that the reason our government is so sloppy is because it's a representative democracy. And that's what you get. If you want a representative democracy, that means you have a democratic system and everybody has representation. We get to elect our senators and congresspeople, so we have them represent us in the government. Make sense? But what you get is a mess because everybody's up there arguing for different things. I told that to somebody else and they said, no, we don't have a representative democracy. And I don't remember the explanation. One of these days I'll look that up. Now, I talked about gross domestic product last time, so I think I'm okay moving along with that one. Let's see what we have. It's a measure of our economic health, yes, and if it's a big number, that's healthy, and if it's a small number, that's not healthy, unless it's a big number and we spend more than we got. That's not healthy. I just can't figure out why we can still do it. We all, as you age, you develop the beliefs of that age group more often than not. So what we all believe when we get to, actually you guys have started, and I got that backwards, it's the young people that figured it out. You don't think Social Security system will be there for you. I didn't either when I was your age. We did not include that into our retirement plan, Social Security. We said, forget that. We just have a retirement plan that works. If we get it, we get it. If we don't, we're okay. And we got it. Amazing. I don't know if I think I told the other, did I tell you that? I don't think I told you that story. I told that at the end of class yesterday. It's the story of Social Security. Do you know when Social Security was started? Okay. If you were there, if you had heard it, you would probably remember that I said that. But Social Security was started somewhere in the 1930s, 1940s. I don't remember the exact time period anymore, but I looked it up a few years ago. The life expectancy for people in the United States at that time was about 65. Might have been 64, might have been 66, might have been 62, I don't know, but it was, well, I think it was 65. The government never intended for you to get that money. They knew what the life expectancy was. They'd go pay people at 65. Well, everybody's going to be dead. We collected all the Social Security money, and most everybody's dead, so we only owe this much. And they've been playing with that money all this time, using it, spending it, borrowing it, dishing it out, because they knew they didn't have to spend it. And guess what happened? The life expectancy increased in this country. The baby boomers are supposed to live into their 90s. And if you start
They
paying...
just raised it too.
You what?
And they just raised it too.
They raised the age. Yeah. A year or two ago, they raised the age, 67, I think. And really, if they had been smart, they would have set up a scale that said, you know, for this 20 years, it'll be 65, for this 20 years, it's going to be 66, for this, then it's going to go, they should have told everybody that that's what they have to do if people continue to live longer. Now, they didn't have that kind of foresight back in the 40s, but we do today, and the government still hasn't figured it out, but they're going to be raising that number. The Echo generation, I think it was. They used to call it the Echo. They call it something else now. But basically, the baby boomers' kids, they weren't taking good care of themselves, and it looks like the life expectancy for that group is going to drop a little bit. If you're interested in that, it's available online. You can find it on the internet. Go with it. All right, little known facts about unemployment. And another good thing to know about the economy. First of all, if you are not looking for a job, you're not unemployed. You lose your job, you're unemployed, you go sign up at the employment office, and they tell you to go start looking for jobs, and you have to go prove that you're looking for jobs and bring in jobs that you talk to people about and try to get and all that kind of stuff. When you stop looking and don't come in and report that you're looking, they cut off your check. And you're no longer counted. So if we have 1 million people that quit looking, our employment rate goes up. Our unemployment rate goes down. Make sense? No.
So it's not a true unemployment rate?
No, you're still unemployed. But we don't count you. There was a little blurb on the news last night about some people for sure, and maybe too many people, if a patient had COVID-19 and died, they were listed as dying from COVID-19. They were asked...
They had a bunch of other stuff.
Huh?
But they had a bunch of others, like diabetes and diabetes and stuff like that.
Yeah, we don't know how rampant it's on, but they had a guy on the news the other night that said, last night or the night before, that said, was asking a question similar to that, and he said, about, he said 9,000, but that can't be right. I need a percentage.
I heard 9,000
6%.
6% did not have underlying conditions. Yeah. Oh, you guys heard that, good. So how many people really died of COVID-19?
6%.
6% of those reported? Well, you can't say that. I mean, that's where everybody else is going to go with it, but you can't say that either. Some of those people might have died of those other diseases, or they might have got well. And we have no way of figuring out what that number is. But you can't say that it was all COVID's fault. COVID was in there, but did it really kill them, or did it end up dying from nothing? You need to do an autopsy on everybody. We don't even have time to bury them, so we can't do autopsies on everybody to find out what the actual cause of death was. But that's, again, the media. Now, I'll spend lots of time this semester talking about the media because, and I may even tell that story 5 or 6 times. There's a very famous newspaper guy back when newspapers first got printed. And he was explaining to his new reporter how the news worked. He said, it's news if, and gave an example. The example is, if a dog bites a man, That's not news. That's what dogs do. They bite people. If a man bites a dog, that's news. So we're all, the news media are always out looking for the exceptional, the exciting, the special things, and they typically don't gather enough information at the time to get the story right. They just blab it all over the place. It's a lot. Today it's the same as social media. Somebody puts a post on social media, everybody shares it, everybody believes it, and we got a crisis. Turns out it's not true. I got an example in my inbox, email inbox now. Somebody sent around a picture of the Vietnam Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. that had been defaced by protesters. Wasn't true, didn't happen. I got veteran friends up there, didn't happen. The wall did not get defaced yet. Will it get defaced sometime? Probably. We're defacing everything today. Okay, so you're not looking, you're not unemployed. You don't count. You're still unemployed, but you don't count. Frictional, people are moving to a new job. I hate this job, I want that job. You go out and you're looking for a better job, and you leave this job and go to that job. When you leave that job, you're not unemployed because you're going to get that job. This one's even worse. So, unemployed for a longer term as skills are no longer relevant. So, elevator operators. This is one of my favorite stories in the elevator to tell. Did you know when elevators were first invented, there was an operator in there to run it for you? Because people weren't smart enough to run an elevator. Anybody been in my elevator down here? Is it pretty complicated? Check it out after class. Go down to the elevator. See how complicated it is. My job at the gas station when I was a teenager was to pump gas for people because people weren't smart enough to pump their own gas. It was too dangerous. They could blow up the gas station, they could blow up their car, they could kill themselves, they could spill gasoline all over the parking lot. And it was all, you had to push buttons, and levers on the pump, all kind of things. Anybody in here not know how to pump their own gas today? Yeah, things change. So if you were an elevator operator, when we did away with those, you're out of business. If you're pumping gas like I was, I'm out of the job. I can't do it anymore. I'm an excellent gas pumper, but nobody will hire me. So you're not unemployed. You should be looking for a new job. You should be looking for getting trained so you can get a different job. Recessions happen. Unemployment goes up and down. We don't worry about the up and downs. We don't pay attention to those. If it's up, then we can count it. If it's down, we can count it. But if it's up and down and up and down and up and down, but too hard to keep track of. And seasonal, you're a cherry picker or a lemon picker or an apple picker. When do you pick apples?
In season.
In the season. Did you say that? No, that's exactly what I was going to say. In season. There's no apples to pick now. You're out of a job. You don't count. Isn't it fun learning all this stuff? Business cycle. Business cycle is a lot like the economic cycle, obviously. It goes up and down. Things get really, really, really good, and then something happens and they get really bad, and then they work their way back up to good and eventually get really good. I've talked a little bit about the economy already, about my concern or wonder, I guess, of how is the economy strong when unemployment is so high, people are losing their houses and apartments, and we got the pandemic going on, and the stock market is going crazy. What's one of the measures? The stock market. Stock market's doing great. My wife just informed me that Tesla stock split 5-for-1 last Monday. I don't know what that means yet. We'll talk about stocks. Pretty soon we'll be talking more about stocks. But what it means is, if you owned 1 share of Tesla stock last week, you now have 5. Sound like a good deal? So, we all think it is, yes, we all think that's a great deal. Now, the price gets cut. It was, the price of a share of stock was $2,500. After they split it, it's only worth $500. But you have the exact value. You have 5 times as many shares, 1/5 of the price. It's exactly the same money, total money that you have. And what happens when you do that is the price is really, really low, and people who couldn't afford $2,500 suddenly say, well, I want in, I want to get some of that Tesla while it's cheap. And that makes the price go up again. Recessions come and go. We've talked about 3 or 4 of them in class. The worst one still was in the 1930s. And we've got some safeguards in place to not guarantee it won't happen again, but pretty well try to keep it from happening again. And we have a pandemic about every 10 years. I think it's 10 years.
100.
100 years? Oh,
The
no.
last one was Spanish flu.
Which one?
Spanish flu.
What about the swine flu?
Oh, that was
It was a little one.
yeah. I didn't know that was considered an epidemic.
Well, I don't know. I haven't done any research. All my friends have been running me through all the diseases that have come up over time. And say, you remember swine flu? I said, yeah. Well, that was a pandemic.
Like
Really?
Ebola,
Was that
too.
big?
Ebola.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know. I didn't consider them pandemics. I didn't know that they were.
Yeah. So there's 3 or 4 of them out there, maybe a little lesser category. This one's a bad one. And 100 years ago, there was another bad one, really bad. So every 100 years, I can deal with every 100 years. Every 10 years, not so much. And if I scared anybody with the rock that's on the way to Earth, it's going to miss us. Let's see. Okay, now there's a definition. I just saw that. I was looking at the slide to see what I missed. I just saw this. So a recession is a decrease in the GDP for 2 successive quarters. So if our income, the country's income drops for 6 months, we're in a recession. So I'm guessing there's been a lot of those. It goes up and down. I just haven't been paying attention to the little ones here. And usually, when we see this, usually that's when the government starts, what are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? Raise the interest rate, lower the interest rate, what does it take? Buy a car dealer, whatever it takes to get things moving. And then the Depression, that's back in the 30s. As far as the record keeping goes, we have not done that. And I don't know what long-lasting means, but it sounds like 10 years is going to be pretty close to the mark. If we keep doing this, if the pandemic goes on for 10 years, we'll probably be in a recession. So far, we have recovered from everything. It's amazing. We're a tough bunch. People come back. Some do, some don't. Oh, hi. This is, by the way, this is how it works. I'd forgotten about this one too, because the economy's been so strong for so long. Nobody was paying attention. My stockbroker that I work with saw it coming, and when it hit, he called me up and said, "I got a buy for you." I said, "Okay, let's get into it." A company that stock was selling for $80 a share was now $14 a share. They went into it wasn't the country, it was that market that went crazy. It had to do with the petroleum industry, of course. And it was one of those petroleum companies that that firm knew that company was going to come back. There's sometimes you know for sure, and sometimes you think you know for sure, but this was one of those sure thing kind of deals. When it's coming back, I mean, when the economy comes back, it's certainly coming back, but they had some particular problems that caused it to drop off that sharply. It's coming back. So I said, fine, and I bought some for $14, and a few weeks later, I sold it for $43. Would you want to do that? Would you buy something for $14 that you could sell for $43?
Sure.
In 6 months, 3 months, a month, a day? No. Yeah, I'd do that even if it took a year. And I have a trick I'll tell you about later. Expansion. But anyway, that's where we were. We were there, and all of a sudden, COVID-19, and now we're in a mess. High unemployment, strong stock market. Well, I guess there's no inflation going on. I haven't heard about any inflation, so that's part of it. This is a little bit political, but you don't have to raise your hands. By the way, I'm going to keep asking you to raise your hands until you raise your hands. We got an assignment later in the semester where everybody raises your hands or we don't go home. I'll get you by then. What was I going to say? I was going to ask a political question. Oh, how many of you think the government did a pretty good job with the pandemic? And how many of you think not so good? And don't raise your hands because I don't care. Are there people that think he did a pretty good job? They, government, not the president. Okay, the president's the king, he's in charge, he's the big boss, he's all of those things, but we have a interesting government here. We have a three-dimensional government. We got the chief executive, the president, we got the Congress, and we got the court, Supreme Court. So if the president screws up, the Congress and Supreme Court are supposed to take action. If the Supreme Court screws up, those other two take action. Congress screws up, those other two take. They set that up on purpose, safeguards. So is the government doing a good job? Are you happy with the government? Or not so much? I'm never happy with the government. Doesn't matter who's in charge, I'm never happy with the government. I'm never happy with the media. I watch the news every night, but I'm never happy with it. Sometimes I get really violent over the news stories and something. Inflation, prices go up for no reason, and hyperinflation means it gets a lot worse. And disinflation happens as well. We get into this problem of inflation and prices start to rise and rise and rise. Finally, people just say, heck with it, I'm not doing it. And now demand is down. What do we got? What's got to happen? We're not buying that. You're in business, you're going to make a profit. What do you got to do? You got to lower your price. So don't sell any. You got to lower your price. It does work. It's not predictable, but it does work. Falling average prices is unusual, but after a period of inflation, that's typical. And there's the one I told you about last time in 1970, stagflation. Couldn't possibly happen. There's another one on the street today that couldn't possibly happen. I can't think what it is. It'll come to me soon. That is the end of chapter 2. And what I would like very much to do today, I didn't anticipate it going that fast either, but what I would like to do is introduce chapter 3 to you, because I want to try to get ahead of the power curve. The test is coming up probably next week. Not next week. I've actually got the Monday class scheduled for a class on Labor Day, so that's going to put them behind. But this is the Monday class. Yes. You're scheduled for class on Labor Day. We're not meeting. Don't come in. Let's start off a little bit on chapter 3. I'll go kind of slow, and we'll get you moving along, and we'll fix that. In the long run, we'll fix that Labor Day. By the way, one of the reasons I'm moving so fast is you're not asking me any questions, and the other reason is this class holds 24 people. In all the years I've taught it, there have been 24 people in the room. I only got 12 of you now. It's like, okay, well, 12 is not enough to make a discussion going for some reason. Everybody's upset about the pandemic, and everybody's upset about the unemployment and all that kind of stuff. It's bad times. But there are still 24 people in this class. I just only get to talk to 12 of you at a time. And it's irritating. Okie dokie, chapter 3. Oh, good. We'll do 15 to 20 minutes of that. We're going to be talking about, this book runs together. It's got different chapters, But have I already talked to you about the world? One world economy? Where do we buy our stuff? Do we buy all of our stuff from the United States?
No, overseas, all over.
The whole world, right? You guys shop online? Girls, shop online? Where's Mark? Do you know where the stuff comes from? When you buy something, do you know where it came from? Do you know who made it?
Depends on what it is.
It'll say made in China or something.
How many say yes? Because I saw some yeses. Some people said, tell me it look like that. And somebody said no.
I'd say both. I mean, some things I'll look for where it's made, some things I don't.
Yeah. I know what it is and I want it. I buy it. I don't know what it is. I don't know where to get it. And I start looking. I care then. This one's $30. Where's it come from? United States. Okay. This one's $20 comes from China. Okay, what's the difference? Then I get involved. I don't know. If it's the same thing, two different prices, I buy the one at the lower price. I get in trouble a lot with my military friends buying stuff from China. The museum actually sells flags of all of the countries that were allied with us in the Vietnam War, and all of the military flags and the American flag, and they're all made in China. So if you hate me because I buy my American flags in China, I apologize. There I go offending people again. See, I'm sorry, but I'm too much a business person. We fly, we fly about 17 flags at the museum 24 hours a day. We are the windiest place in Parker County, and Palo Pinto County put together for that matter. One day since we've been open, let's see, we opened in 2007, that's 13 years. One day in 13 years, the flags were hanging limp, and I called up our maintenance guy and said, Gary, the flags are broken. And he said, what? I had never seen the flags drooping. And I told him, you're kidding. He drove out there to see that. The flags last, if the weather's really bad, they might last a week. Sometimes they'll last a month. It's just kind of hard to say. But if I have to pay $30 for all of those flags instead of $10 for all those flags, I'm going to bankrupt the museum. So I buy the cheapest ones I can get that will last just as long as the most expensive ones I can get. And I don't care who makes them. So, you're welcome to hate me for that, but it's okay. I'm going to make a note of that. World Marketplace, the internet, it's all easy. Business opportunities. Now, let me make another note. You can go out of this building today and start a business. I'll give you 2 or 3 suggestions of businesses you can start right now. Buy a lawnmower and mow people's yards. Take your lawnmower, go down the street and ask people if they want the lawn mowed. If they say yes, charge them, tell them what it costs, mow the lawn. There's dozens of people doing that. There's room for more. When you first start asking people about that, they say, somebody already does that, somebody already does that. Oh, yeah, nobody's ever asked me. Yeah, I was using Bill, and Bill died or got too expensive or wasn't doing a good job. Yeah, you just got to keep asking people until you find enough to make a profit at it in your business. Any kind of personal service, car washing, house cleaning. My sister-in-law years ago, the bank that she worked at had a cleaning service, and they did a terrible job. She's one of these cleanliness people, and the company they were using to clean the bank was horrible, and they charged a lot of money. And she went to her boss and said, you know what, I'll clean this bank better for less. And they gave her a shot at it. I didn't think you could get away with something like that. I mean, you work at the bank and they're gonna hire you to do the cleaning, and it kind of seemed like a conflict of interest in her someplace. But anyway, they hired her. And she did such a good job, they recommended her to other people. Next thing you know, she was making a lot of money cleaning banks. She could have quit her bank job if she wanted to. The one I did, snack vending, you could do that one today too. But personal services, you find personal service that you don't mind doing for other people and can charge a fair price. It's out there. That's how many, there's one more opportunity than that, and that is the internet. You can form a global company tonight and be global business tomorrow because of the internet. You've got to put a name up there, a product, and entice people to your website. Matter of fact, you can do it, you don't have to go full internet, you can do it on social media. You can offer something to everybody on your social media site for sale for free or whatever, and be in business. That's a new opportunity. I didn't have that when I was looking for businesses to start. Now, I forget to tell some of my stories the other class, so I told stories Tuesday, Thursday that I didn't tell in here. I'm going to tell stories in here that they're not going to hear. I'm going to try to keep them together. This is one of the problems with me hanging onto a textbook for 2 or 3 years, and that's emerging economies. Let me just tell you right now, South Vietnam is not an emerging country today. They are full speed. As a matter of fact, when we started the museum project, I came up with an idea to sell some products, and I was finding products on a regular basis. You know, every few months when I had time, I would find a product that was made in Vietnam. And I'd buy a whole bunch of those suckers because they were relatively inexpensive, and I sold them primarily to Vietnam veterans. I was traveling the country going to Vietnam veterans activities, and I'd take stuff with me to sell to them. And they'd look, that's kind of cute. And I said, yeah, it's made in Vietnam. They go, really? Give me 2 of those. You're kidding, they were made in Vietnam? Yeah, and they were great quality.
You have a museum here in Weatherford?
Parker County. The National Vietnam War Museum.
Oh, like in toward Mineral Wells?
Yep.
I pass that every single day.
Yep. We're going to open that big building that's 20,000 square feet with exhibits in it, November 14th. I'll be reminding you all of that. Almost every class period, I'll remind you that some way or another. People have driven by that. As a matter of fact, I got this story. I won't make a note of this one unless somebody asks in the other class. But a guy emailed me. He used to live in, dang it, it's a town in the local area that's also a city in New York, and I can't think of it right now. Anyway, he used to live here. He moved somewhere else, but he used to live here. He just got solicited by our direct mail campaign, and he wrote me sent me an email and said, you know, I lived there for 20 years, drove by that helicopter every day, didn't know what it was for. He said, I just got this thing in the mail, now I know what it's for. We didn't have any marketing money. We never had any money for the project, and certainly not to do marketing. It costs lots of money to do marketing. But we've had a billboard practice since we bought the property, and nobody read the billboard either. We put that Huey up on a 20-foot pole, and every time you meet somebody, tell them about the museum, they say, where's the museum? I said, you seen the helicopter on the highway? Oh yeah, that's it. Everybody in both counties and all over creation know there's a helicopter out there on Highway 180. We got a billboard and a big sign now that says National Vietnam War Museum. Nobody's seen either one of those.
Well, I seen the museum, that's what I thought he was talking about, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
It's fascinating because we don't have anybody that's a real marketing expert, but one guy used to work for marketing for a truck firm before he retired. I know about marketing, we'll talk about that in a later chapter. One of the other guys is very knowledgeable in the marketing arena, and he can't believe it. He put the billboard went up right away. He put the sign up on the fence a couple of years ago, and I told him, he said, are people noticing the sign? I said, no, nobody's ever said a word about that sign. People would pull in past the sign, they'd turn into the gate and come in there and say, what's going on here? I'd say, this is the National Vietnam War Museum. Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that. You could have read the sign. And I'm not sensitive about that thing at all. It's just fascinating, especially to marketing people, that, what do you mean nobody reads the sign? People don't read the sign. You're doing 65 miles an hour, you got time to look for signs? The helicopter, though, and those of you that have been out there, you know that if you're coming this direction, that helicopter's in your way.
That's what sticks out more to me is the helicopter.
I put it up there. I'm the guy that was there supervising putting that thing up there, and I knew it was there. And I was living in Grayford at that time, and the next day when I came in from Grayford, I slammed on my brakes because there's a helicopter right in the middle of the highway coming at me. Oh, that's on a pole. Stupid, you know that. It took me a week to get over that. Helicopter. It's instinctive. Helicopter. But now people have noticed our big building too. 20,000 square feet, 2-story. And the direct mail campaign people have now mailed at least one letter to over 1 million people. And some people have gotten 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 letters. If you donate, you get another letter for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So they've reached 1 million people. Now I'm getting calls just like that guy that says, I used to live there, never knew what that was. I just got a letter in the mail. I wished I'd stopped. People. Okay, so Vietnam's not, that all started from Vietnam not being an emerging country. The Philippines, that's crazy. They've been emerged practically since World War II. The Philippines were nearly wiped out in World War II. I was stationed, I was never stationed in the Philippines. I had to spend a week or 2 in the Philippines once with the Army. You walk downtown, there's a little vendor on every street corner with stuff, and it's inexpensive and it's good quality. They weren't marketing overseas very much. And of course, nobody was much until the internet came along. But people are still bringing things back from the Philippines. It's just absolutely unbelievable. Low prices, good quality, interesting stuff. Bangladesh, I don't know. Anybody know Bangladesh? I know they're making t-shirts.
I've seen something say made in Bangladesh.
Clothing, I know, yeah. We used to do a group project in my management class, and one of the things people went around and looked for different kinds of clothing in different places. China now is outsourcing some of their menial work to save money on labor. Does that sound funny to you? Because we send all of our stuff to China to get cheap labor. China's sending their stuff to somebody else to get cheap labor. They're not an emerging economy. Brazil, I don't believe it. Maybe Russia. India, no, not anymore. These are all solid economies today, in my opinion. You might check. Now, North Vietnam is still an emerging economy. It's all one country now. But all of that capitalism took hold in South Vietnam because they learned it from us GIs. The most interesting thing about the United States Army is we go places and we change them into our model. In Vietnam, you could get somebody to wash your clothes for you, for $1 a week. Well, I never washed my clothes, I sent them out, but that's a different story. But you could get somebody, in Korea, you could do the same thing. You could hire somebody to shine your shoes for you. So you're supposed to have shiny shoes in the military. I never did like doing that, so for $1 a week, this lady would shine my shoes every week, or every day. They went in business. They found out they could do that. They found out that even after we left, they could do it for somebody else. They learned the business model, capitalism took hold. You could, for a candy bar in World War II, you could get just about anything you could imagine. Give a little kid a candy bar, and he's gonna get you something. Give it to an adult, they get you something. That's my idea. Okay. Why do we buy overseas? Cheap labor. We can get people to do it for less. We can save money. Unfortunately, the quality goes down. Got a lot of stories about that. I don't know about the reduced risk thing. I'm not buying into that reduced risk. Going overseas is not reducing your risk. And I've got to tell that story. I've got to remember to tell that story 2 or 3 times during a semester. I didn't know, and the reason that's why I'm going to tell it so many times is I didn't know. And I try to keep up. China has control of the world's drug supply. They make all the drugs. We outsourced all of our drugs to China from the United States. I don't know how many other countries do that. I think Russia's still making some of theirs, but they're right next door to China. They go beat them up if they want to. We don't make any drugs in the United States. They're all made in China. Sounds pretty bad to me. What's worse than that is if you have the recipe to make that drug, the components are all in China. Even if you know how to make that drug, you can't get those items without going through China. Does that sound bad to anybody besides me? Yeah. So if China had developed a vaccine for this pandemic thing, then we would add platinum. Russia claims they already got one. We're working on it. But the idea that a foreign country that doesn't like us could kill us all without using any bullets scares me to death, being a soldier. They don't even have to leave the country. Well, some of them have to leave the country. Well, they don't really. They just infect the American tourists that come by. And unless China's changed dramatically, they really don't care about losing 100,000 people. They got a lot more people than we do. So you lose a few thousand. That happens. Innovation, yes, I'll go along with that one. Reason for it. And the other one I was looking for was, oh, there's one. Competitive advantage, opportunity cost, lower prices I've talked about. Let's get that one. Oh, this is a great place to stop right here. Let's talk about the balance of trade. Next time we'll start right there on talking about the balance of trade. Questions, comments? I'm in a much better mood than when I walked in the door, so thank you. I have to go apologize to all the other people. Zoom meeting failed. Zoom meeting failed yesterday. The Zoom meeting failed today. The Zoom meeting just